it's that point. Now, coming to the report, and I don't want to start what we have done already, Chair, and I hope I don't go into that, but because we've got to address a number of things, and I hope you'd pardon me. But looking at the process itself, and as I said, and which that's why I wanted to go into even the processes and the recommendation. When you look at the report of the public protector, for example, it says how the original process started, and you go to even to the, as I think they agree, both of them, the SIU. Hence we came to, or hence all this institution and the reports will start talking about this 27 million. But here again, it shows the level that you had an institution or entity or government department that went and did what it did. Initial assessment by DPW, which in my view was wrong, was not supposed to have happened. And I think the reports as well would give that, because in the instance, that's where the premise that you got the public to start speaking about that the cost escalation went extremely. While acknowledging, yes, the cost escalations happened, but to what extent are these cost escalations? What is the actual work based on the reports that we have that has happened? Chairperson, if you look at the reports, I wouldn't be an expert to determine finally, but if you look at what the public protector and the SIU report says, and I go together with the, I want to bring again the report of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence here, is that the amount, all of them just indicate that what the actual work that has been done shouldn't even be above 100 million. So you are dealing with an overall amount of about 240 something, 46. So meaning 146 is in terms of escalation. This is the amounts that goes into your consultancy and all those things. But Chairperson, just to draw the committee into the JCI report, because this is where I found one of the issues that I want just to flag, because to understand the nature and what has happened there, it assists to look where I think it's page 30, let me just go, where the Committee of Parliament says that if you are to look at what has been broken down in terms of the overall amount, the actual costs, private residence security costs, comes to 24%. Infrastructural cost in terms of government hub comes to 52%. And other costs, meaning the consultancy fees, comes to 24%. So in an essence, if we are to look at the issues that are before us, this is one of the things that I'm trying to flag, Chairperson, that this is what comes from this committee. And by the way, just to highlight, the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence actually did an on-site local inspection to Nkandla. They went there as the team. It's a multi-party committee that went there, because the multi-party, it was a multi-party committee as per establishment, if you are to read the report, in how it was constituted. And it went and saw on the ground what was happening. So a committee of parliament has been to Nkandla to see what has happened. Now, I'm flagging this issue and bringing this report because we've agreed, Chairperson, that we'll go into all the reports and look at the issues, because we've got to be able to determine what actually happened. And for me, what is now coming out strongly is that almost, or even plus minus or more, of 146 million, it's something that we can clearly say it's money that went into. It's something that it's corruption that has happened there, money that was not supposed to have. These are escalations. Because this is what, if you are to go to the SIU report, as the SIU is stipulating that they are trying to recover, as state lost money. So that's another thing that I wanted to highlight.
Honourable, just to indicate to you, the SIU amount is 155 million.
155
that they are recovering, yes.
Actual amount, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Chair. That's why I'm saying it's working around that amount, because if you go to GSI, I didn't want to go to the specific amount because all the reports go into the different amounts, but all of them, it's above 100 all of them are actually saying what has been spent on the Nkandla upgrade is not even more than 100 million. So that's, for me, is the first issue that the committee has to acknowledge, the committee has to note in terms of the reports that are before us. Then the second issue that we've got to look at, Chairperson, is, again, if we were to go in terms of the 10 points plan or the 10 processes that is stipulated by the SIU, or in terms of the processes that the department says that they followed. For example, one of the things in terms of the cabinet memo that I think it's a policy gap as well, the issue that is SSA, so what is it? Security agency, that goes and do a threat analysis, and then it says that SAPS would do evaluation. I think, again, it's a gap, Chair, because if SAPS is to go alone and do an evaluation, I think this is the result of where we ended up, because you had entities of government parallel to each other doing their own assessment. And it's a policy gap that needs to be closed, because if there's a coordinated mechanism that is done, that everybody goes at one point, or the security cluster puts a mechanism to say that when, let's say, for example, a head of state is appointed, and once the head of state is appointed, a team, for example, it needs to be prescriptive that a team will go. And a team should include security agencies like SAPS, like SNDF, and the intelligence, so that their work, when they produce a report, is more coordinated and can speak to all the requirements that are needed. So that's why I'm saying one of the other areas that I'm picking up is this policy gap that is there, that would have to pronounce ourselves as Parliament in order for this gap to be closed, because our duty is to make sure that this does not continue in the future, and we protect the state, we protect the country, and we protect the head of state in terms of not being exposed to something that has happened again. Then the other issue, which I think already, based on the reports with the SIU and what is reported generally in the public, the issue of officials that needs to face procedures, that needs to account as well. But Chair, I had said initially that when we started even last week, just to reiterate, here we've got to look at the systems. In the process of work, for example, when this project happened, as per the reports that are before us, that the PP at some point reflects that the Minister of Public Works and the Deputy Minister of Public Works came close to the project. And that could have made the state too vulnerable, because with them coming close to the project, it gave an impression to officials that this is a different type of a project, which in terms of code of ethics is wrong. So the people who came close to the project shouldn't have in the first place. Because if, for example, if we were to give a scenario, Chairperson, if they had not come close to the project, this assumption, perhaps, of the officials that we thought that, these things are being endorsed, we were put under pressure, it wouldn't arise. So I think the closeness of the executive members to the process exposed the executive and the state to this level of corruption. Then come to the officials in terms of the process, Chairperson. I'm trying to follow the system in terms of the points that are highlighted, what should have happened, what should have been followed, and how it should have been followed. Now, Chairperson, the issue here as well is to come back to say, in the process, when officials now are not doing what is supposed to be done, for example, one of the issues I want to highlight again, the appointment of Mr. Makanya, it needs to be recorded in the reports as being unlawful in the manner that it has happened. And the fact that, and I think even in the morning session, the fact that the Public Works professional team or professional project team abandoned their responsibilities, left their responsibilities, and left the private professional team to run the process, exposed the state to where we are today as well. So should have they done their work, and should have they flagged? And Chairperson, I want to go to the issue because it was emphasized that officials are not able to act against ministers. If you interact with officials, they will tell you. It's very clear they do act against ministers. They tell them, if you want to do this, if minister is not aware, at times it's because certain people are not even aware. So you have a duty as an official to say, but this is not within the law. You can't assume without raising it. We've got legal framework, we've got whistleblowers processes. None of them have actually taken, because if, let's say, for example, Chairperson, these officials realize that we are being asked to do something wrong, and, for example, went to the Public Protector's office, the state would have been saved all this money that has been gone into corrupt activities. They have not done so. So I want to go back to the argument that we can continue to protect officials who have done wrongfully, who did not take their responsibility, who do not act within the constitution of the country. There are frameworks, there are avenues, there are many areas that they could have acted to blow the whistle, to assist and protect the state from losing the amount of money that has been lost. So I would want us, while we can pronounce chair on matters that are before courts, those that are facing courts, but I think as Parliament and as committee, we should support the process that is undertaken in terms of recovering the money. We should support the process that is undertaken to get the officials to account. Let them explain what happened in the processes, either through their DC, those who are taken to court through the courts. That is the mechanism so that we can eventually know what has happened and why did they do what they have done wrong. But as well, to hold them accountable so that it's a lesson to many state officials not to do wrong things in the pretext that I will say that I have been unduly influenced and forced. Now, Chair, one of the other areas I want to come into is even the level of, I'm not so sure if I've highlighted, but the issue of coordination between DPW, SAPS and SNDF and the Security Intelligence Office. Now, when you look at the report as well, Chair, there are things that, for me, which comes out sharply between the two reports, no, between the three reports, actually. It's this list of what is security measures or requirements and what is non-security. This comes sharply in contrast between the reports. You don't get one report that they don't agree on all the issues. You go to SIU highlights certain things, for example, the clinics and all those things that actually they were needed, the issue that you had to move the crawl, you had to move all these other things, all those things. They're saying there was a need for them. Their contentious issue around is the amount, the escalation. For example, with the SIU, it says where you needed 3 rooms, you would have had 5 rooms or 12 rooms. Where you needed a 30 square meter, you'd have that 30 square meter increased to 120 square meters. So that's the difference. Whereas when you come to the Public Protector's report, there are non-essentials as per the Public Protector. She mentions the clinic, that crawl, the chicken runs, and all those things. But when you come to the SIU, that's what I'm saying, Chair. For me, what comes out now is the non-agreement in the reports in terms of what is the security measure and what is not the security required as the security measure. Now, what is also common out of the reports, which comes out strongly as well, is that the President has not requested all this, which comes out very strongly out of the reports, all of them. The second thing is that the president did not steal the state money, as per the reports as well. Now, the issue of unduly benefiting and coming to even the public protector, I'll come to later, Chair, when we go into looking at, I would want to have specific time to look at all the recommendation across the board. But I just wanted to start first with the observation that I have in terms of these reports and more. And I think the observation in terms of the report and what I think it's things that we need to follow up, things that we've got to put into place as how do we deal with them, what are our responsibilities in dealing with them. So, Chair, that's where I will stop for now. I'll come back later just to go into detail with recommendations and maybe the outcomes and actions that needs to be taken. Thank you.
The Honourable Dlakude, followed by the Honourable Beekman.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Ngithanda ukucacisa la ukuthi wena lo sesihlalweni ukuthi lembiko yonke lela phambi kwethu wa public protector usho kahle ukuthi Mengameli Zuma azange ayikhohlise National Assembly magathi yena nemndeni wakhe batakhele likhaya labo. Ngisho letindlu leti lapha eNkandla. Ngisho futhi ukuthi nembiko we-Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence uyakusho lokho nakho ukuthi uvumelana naloko lokushiwo ngu-Public Protector ukuthi Mengameli le wakutshela liParliament ukuthi umuti wakhe utakhele kunjengoba kunjalo. Njengoba mangakhumbuta abalingani bami la ukuthi uye wasiniketa Mengameli lombiko ukuthi umuti wakhe utakhele. So lama reports wonke yemvikeli wesive neyaleli committee kanye naleye SIU ivumelana naloko. Ngithanda futhi nokuthi ngicacise la ukuthi kunalendo yokuthi labanye bethu njengalaba laba suke basibalekela la bathi lenzawo leya la kunemuti wamongameli kanye nelisenvo lakhe kwindzawo yeNgwenyama Trust. Ngithanda kusho ukuthi lemhlaba lapha ngasho ukuthi ukabili kunemhlaba lo uwemndeni wakaZuma, kunemhlaba lo uweNgwenyama Trust. Umuti weMengameli nemndeni wakhe ukulomhlaba lo uwemndeni wakaZuma. Ngithanda futhi kusho la wena sihlalo kwekuthi lokwendekile la kule project yetekuphepha emntini wa Mengameli ayisiko kokuqala ukuthi kwendeke emntini wa Mongameli. Kwendekile emitini yalabanye bomengameli lasibe nabo phambilini. Ngisho nangalesa sikhathi selibandlululo imbala kwendekile ukuthi kube khona tinto tekuvikeleka letifa kwakho. Ngithanda futhi kusho ukuthi Mengameli akebanga imali yebathelinzela bala e South Africa njengoba sathi ukuthi sonke siyathela kepha azange ebe imali ebakhokhi benzela ekwakheni umuti wakhe. Wacacisa Mengameli ukuthi lo muti wakhe uye kuleto tinkampani letibolekisa imali letigcina imali mabank waboleka imali yokuthi endele umsebenzi. So ukwende kanjalo. Ngithanda ke ukuthi sihlalo wami lohloniphekile sikwadi kahle kamhlophe ukuthi lokuthi angakuveti lokho kulungelo lakhe ene kuyimfihlo le phakathi kwakhe kanye nalaba labanye labathelindlela. Lokwendekile la sihlalo njengoba kusukela saqala lo msebenzi wethu silkomiti siyakuceka bandvu labathide abawendanga umsebenzi wabo. Accounting officers la ema departments awawendanga umsebenzi wabo. Nabo minister labe bakhona kanye nelisekela lakhe mphathiswa lobeka khona nelisekela lakhe lesikhathi kuqala lento abawendanga umsebenzi wabo ukuthi babuke ukuthi yonke into ihamba njengoba injalo kulandzelwa imithetho lelebekiwe lekufanele kulandzelwe yona azange ilandzelwe. Le team lebe ikhona ye Department of Public Works lengathi pheceleti i-professional team lebe kufanele kube ngiyo lebiyeke ibuka lokuthi lelihlelo lihanjiswa ngendlela lengiyo iye yahlehla yadedela ke i-private professional team iqembu lebantu bangasese labe benkampani yangasese laba bebatibita ukuthi bama professionals babe seba benda umsebenzi lebe ufanele wendiwe ngile team ya Public Works. Le team lengikhuluma ngayo ya Public Works inama chief architects bantu labaqeqeshelwe ukubuka yonke lo msebenzi lo bekufanele wendekile lapha kepha bayekelela kungako kube sekuvuleka lo mgodi noma lo msele ukuthi kube sekuyantshontshwa lapha imali idliwe sihlalo ithethwe imali bantu lama prize waletinto ngendlela bebewenda ngakhona babe sebawakhulisa ngalokuphinza phinzekile. Mangathi ngiyabekisa sihlalo wami ngasho ukuthi ukhona wona lo mkhutshana wekuthi ebantu nangabe bathi ukuthi basebenzela uhulumende lelibhodlela lemandi lengiliphethe la nangabe ulithenga nga 5 rand kepha ngoba ngiyosupply uhulumende ngiyothengisela uhulumende ngitabe sengilibita 100 rand kuze ngithi injingisi ngiloko lokwendekile la kube nengohlakalo leningi lendekile la. So silkomiti thina la seParliament lesikubonako sibona ukuthi sihlalo ukuthi kufanele sibe sesiyaqinisa lapho kuvuleka khona lemithetho yethu ukuthi into letifana naleti tingaphinzi tendeke ngoba ngiloko lokusuka kwatfukuthelisa labanye balingani bethu lababona ukuthi basibalekele ngoba bona bacabanga ukuthi kunalesikufihlako asifihli lutho kepha sibukana nemaqiniso njengoba anjalo ukuthi lokhu ngilokulokwendekile ene lokhu ngoba masathine sitochutshwa sihlalo wami lohloniphekile sichutshwe inzondo sichutshwe ngilokuthi vele lo muntu asimfuni thine asimfuni vele so sithi asishaye yena sisho ukuthi kuvumelekile lokwendiwe disebendi gaye nabo bonke taka Public Works gaye nabo bonke laba bebasebenda lapha emntini wamongameli yona le private professional team lebe isebenda lapha ukuthi sithi kulungile ukuthi batholakale batinjingise ngalokungekho emthethweni. Lokunye futhi letindvo letendekile lapha kumangameli njengoba ashito umlingani wami la Dubai njengoba ashito umlingani wami kunalabanye labambita njalo so bengicabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe ngilendlela bitwa ngakhona njengoba ashito umlingani wami kuBhayi ukuthi mhlonishwa kuBhayi ukuthi imali lebakhuluma ngayo ukuthi idliwe ayidliwanga ngumongameli ayingenanga esikhwameni samongameli kungako sithe nangalela langa le kukhulunywa la lomunye walaba lababalekile ndawo lokungisho njalo labaphikisana nathi ukuthi athi angiyathi ukuthi imali ingene ekhukhwini labani bani wayikhipha ebhangi wabe soyiniketa mongameli sathi nangabe unebufakazi baloko buvete noma uye enkantolo ngoba vele kulapho la tinto leti njalo kufanele tiphelele khona. Kodwa lokwendekile la ngilokuthi thina lesimele lo Khongolose asihambe sigijima sigcwala tiganga sithi hayi thina sifuna nje ukukhuluma lokuthengisako emaphepheni kanye nakubomabona kuthi. Thina sikhuluma ngemaqiniso la khona sibuka indzaba ukuthi isuka kuphi ifika kuphi asiyi ngokuthi sive nje umoya uyangala nathi sishona khona sikhulume into lengekho siyangala umoya uthi ushona le empumalanga ushona entshonalanga nathi sishona khona asisebenzi kanjalo. Lokhu lesikhuluma ngako la ngiloku kula kule mibiko yonke sihlalo kuthi lento lena ayihambanga kahle ngoba ebantu abalandzelanga umthetho ene sikubuka ukuthi bakwende ngabomu kude batokhona phela ukuthi batinjingise ngiloko lokwendekile. So sihlalo kafuphi ngizama kusho ukuthi mawubuka yonke lento lele khona la mongameli akadlanga mali yamuntu, mongameli akakhanga umuntu wakhe ngemali yahulumende, mengameli nemndeni wakhe abatinjingisanga ngemali yahulumende. Konke lokwendekile njengoba lemibiko isho kunjengoba kunjalo. Ngivumelana futhi nemlingani wami la make lohloniphekile la kuBhayi kuthi njengoba sitibuka letinto sitibuka thina ngelwimi lethu la ngala kaKhongolose sihlalo mangakukhumbuta kodwa yalatha sithi sitibuka esikhaleni senalithi letinto lesikhuluma ngato siyatibona ukuthi leminye lembiko lekhona la uyayibona ukuthi bekungabukwanga ukuthi kufuna ukutholwa amaqiniso kahle kuko konke ukuthi kwendekeni bobona nje ukuthi kugijinyiswa umuntu la ene bowubona ukuthi ungakuvisisi futhi nokuthi labantu laba kubaye bayohlatiya lapha kulomunye umbiko lo mvikeli wesive ngabe vele baceceshelwe lokho ukuthi bakwende lokho noma sesimane sabhala ngoba vele njengoba vele emaphepha bese kashido embikweni ukuthi kwendekani. So njengoba thina singasito tinyosi leti jajuliswa kubona timbali noma singasiwo emavivane lawa makushisa kakhulu atholakale agcwala lapha thina asiwo emavivane eloku phela wena sihlalo mavivane alaba betindzaba sikhuluma thina emaqiniso njengoba anjalo ukuthi lo muntu lomdzala longumongameli welive kufanele vele ukuthi letinto lete kumvikela lapha ekhaya tibe khona njengoba kwendekile nasemakhaya alabanye bomongameli. Imali intshontshiwe bantu labe benda lo msebenzi badurisela uhulumende yonke into ngoba bafuna ukuthi bona sebanjingile ngiloko lokwendekile. In short, Honorable Chairperson, what I was trying to say, yeah, I'm doing this because he said there's no translation, so I must do it so that he can understand. But I'll teach him Siswati one day. So what I was trying to say, Honorable Chairperson, is that the security upgrades that were done at the President's house at Nkandla were relevant, that they must be done. Because all the previous presidents that we had in the country, those things were done at their houses. So this is what I'm trying to say. And also that according to the reports, the Public Protector's report, the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, the SIU report, this report says the president did not mislead the National Assembly when he said his family, him and his family, are responsible for building their own houses. So there's no state money or taxpayers' money that was used to build those houses. And the security features, because there was this process of building the president's home, were supposed to be featured within the designs that are already there, that are already happening. Because the president's home was under construction, so those features were supposed to be incorporated there while the process is taking place. So there was serious looting of the state money, serious corruption that took place during this process, serious flouting of processes that took place. There was no oversight or monitoring of this process. So what I was trying, before we come to the recommendations, Chairperson, I said, as lawmakers sitting in this committee room, we are expected to make sure that we close all the gaps. Make sure that this kind of thing, this kind of looting doesn't take place. The Honorable Kubai here already mentioned that there are processes that the SIU has already taken regarding those who are implicated in these reports. So I emphasize the issue of the president not benefiting from any corruption that took place here. What I'm saying is that he didn't misuse any taxpayers' money or the state funds. It's the processes that were flouted by those who were responsible for that. And also the reports keep on mentioning the minister and the deputy minister and the officials of DPW, the professional team that neglected, the DPW's professional team that neglected their role, and of which that action led to the private professional team taking over. So that is what I was trying to highlight, and saying that it is not wrong that there were security upgrade needs at the president's house, because that is what is happening, and that is what has happened in the past, and that is what is happening all over the world in the houses of the presidents or the executive. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Beekman.
Oh, sorry. He reminds me, Honorable Masego reminds me of one thing that I forgot to translate. The issue of the land portions, the land where the house of where the home of the president is situated. There are two land portions there. The one belonging to Ngonyama Trust, and the other one belonging, the land portion belonging to the Zuma clan, or Zuma family, if I may say so. So the president's house is not necessarily in the Ngonyama Trust land. It's in the portion of a land that is owned by the Zuma family. That is what I was saying. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Beekman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Because it's Home Language Day, I'll speak a bit in my home language. Ja, voorzitter, ons sal van
It's all in the spirit
Ja.
of Heritage Month. It's coming to an end today.
Ja.
Soos erfenis. Jy kan maar praat, meneer.
Ja, voorzitter, wat baie belangrik is in al die verslae wat na vore kom, is dat dis van kernbelang dat die president van die republiek moet behoorlik beskerm word. Daar moet voldoende maatreëls in plek wees om dit seker te maak dat dit geskied, dit moet professioneel geskied, en is ook baie belangrik dat die nodige prosesse gevolg word. Dit is duidelik uit die verslae dat die prosesse nie gevolg is nie, in die geval van die kabinetsmemorandum van 2003, net 2 uit die 10 stappe is wel geneem wat voorgeskryf word. Dit is ook baie duidelik dat bepaalde rolspelers hulle pligte nie nagekom het nie, en ons is van mening dat ons na elkeen van hierdie rolle moet gaan kyk. Dit is ook baie belangrik om in ag te neem die landelike aard van die betrokke woning. Die ander kollegas het dan verwys na die vorige presidente wat se wonings hoofsaaklik in stedelike gebiede is, maar daar's ook unieke landelike aspekte. Die collega het ook verwys na dat die president se gedeelte van die eiendom is maar 3,8 hektaar en die ander staatsgrond is 5,1 hektaar waar die meeste van hierdie materiaals opgesit is en dis 'n kwessie wat ons ook na moet kyk as ons vorentoe beweeg. Een van die ander aspekte wat ons ook nou wil verwys is die kwessie die lang tyd wat dit geneem het om die aangeleentheid af te handel en ook die hele kwessie van beheer en ook die rol van ander instellings. Byvoorbeeld, wat is die rol van die tesourie? Dit is iets waarna ons ook moet kyk. Chairperson, maybe just to start with the first issue is to do with the fact that if you go to the various reports, and especially the one of the SIU, it's quite clear that the lead time for a project to start is very problematic. For instance, if you go to page 67 of the SIU report, it's indicated that when the President was MEC, there was assessments by SAPS in 1999 and then 2004. And again in 2007 there was also an evaluation done to be implemented. But it's quite fascinating to see that the evaluation reflecting the need for major upgrade to be conducted as none of the significant upgrades have been proposed, have been effected. Now in that period of 5 to 7 years, only 2 things have been effected. Fire extinguishers and an intruder alarm system have been provided, despite the 3 evaluations. So there's clearly a gap between the evaluation department and the implementation department. And whether there should be a designated office in the presidency or in the M&E unit or other departments, that's something we must deliberate on when we come to recommendations. But to ensure that that link is there, because it's again the question of silos that we must try to avoid in such a situation. And then the President was inaugurated on 9 May 2009, and then the action starts. And in terms of lead time, that is definitely unacceptable. For instance, in other jurisdictions, if the leader of the majority party or the party that may assume office, if that candidate is selected by its own party, that evaluation starts. There's progress and there's task teams. In our case, we can't have a situation like this that's been indicated in the reports, that we wait until 5 to 12 before midnight and then start implementing or evaluating. So that is a rushed process and there is not really sufficient attention given to the prescript. So that is a major issue that we as a parliamentary committee must come with a recommendation. So, well, there's 3 or 5 lead departments, even in the recommendations of the 5 institutions. Maybe there should be 1 lead department that would look after this process in detail. So that is one issue I think we will have to deal with going forward. Then, Chairperson, if you look at the reports, especially also in the SIU report, and it's also mentioned in the PP's report, the non-compliance with supply chain management processes with regard to the appointment of at least some of the contractors, suppliers, or service providers who engaged to effect the upgrades and improvements. There was overcharging by at least some of the consultants. It would appear that although we were entitled to charge 18.5% of the total value of the contract, they charged 25%. Fraud by the contractors with regard to tax clearance certificates. Some of the contractors, suppliers, or service providers who were appointed have not been vetted by the State Security Agency. And that's a big problem again. We had this morning from the experts in terms of the role and the responsibilities of the security agencies. Now, this is a problem in a lot of government departments. If those contractors are not properly vetted, and especially at such an important venue, then there is serious problems in the making. And then also issues of contractors who were appointed did not have the required CIDB grading to perform the construction work that were engaged to perform. And then the question also of contractors and suppliers and service providers not subscribing to the relevant matters. as prescribed by legislation. But the biggest issue is really the memorandum of 2003, the cabinet memo. Some of the recommendations of, I think the PP says there should be an up, let's say, just want to get to the specific reference, that there should be an update of it. I think there should be an overhaul of the 2003 cabinet memo, that we build in steps to ensure that there is along the way a checklist by the institution or lead department to ensure that those steps are followed. And if there is deviation, that there's early warning systems. It also brings to mind the role of Treasury. It is, I mean, currently we've got quarterly reports coming to Parliament of all the departments, portfolio committees, look at those reports. So it's quite vital that National Treasury should also assume a particular role. I don't think the reports made mention of that in the recommendations, but I think that's something we as a portfolio committee should also look at, and to ensure that, as an ad hoc committee, to ensure that we improve the system. Then with regard to the security upgrades, and it's quite clear that the necessary steps were not followed, but we need to get assurance as a committee that those upgrades that were done in terms of the security is relevant, is applicable. So we need a situation where the relevant executive authority dealing with that in government can give us proper feedback to indicate this is the situation, that was properly done. If it was not properly done, what should else be done to ensure that there is the relevant security in place at the residence of the head of state. Also in the report of the SIU, there is concern on the last few pages. They mention on 244 that during the inspection in loco, the investigating team noted a number of matters of concern relating to the upgrades that have been affected. And that also relates to the question of security, of course. So it's quite critical that we as a committee, that there is the necessary assurance and the necessary feedback to ensure that the necessary steps are taken to make sure that the President and his family are safe in terms of the relevant prescripts. Chairperson, I will rest at this stage.
The Honourable Cheka.
Honourable Chairperson, the Chinese say that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Start with a step. Thank you for empowering me. No one can complete such a journey without taking that step. Opposition parties in this committee wanted us not even to take that step, but to complete a journey of 100 miles by finding ourselves at the end of that journey. Such a move would change the nature and extent of the journey and distort the facts. The ANC rejected such distortions to protect the integrity of the journey and its outcomes. The journey undertaken by this ad hoc committee required a roadmap which the ANC proposed as 10 steps. This roadmap consisted of 10 steps aimed at affording the committee an ample opportunity to study each and every step to Nkandla in the light of all the reports before it. The ANC believed that in such an exercise, you cannot predetermine the merits of any of the reports and assign it a higher status than other reports. It is for this reason that the ANC took the view that all reports are equal before the eyes of Parliament, and that Parliament is obliged to consider the merits and demerits of the recommendations emanating from these reports. Chairperson, there was an application to yourself for the suspension of proceedings of this committee in order to seek a legal opinion. It seems to be a developing tendency in this parliament to disregard the doctrine of separation of powers and to ask the courts to intervene in matters that Parliament is seized with. I think, Chairperson, if this tendency is allowed to continue, that would be the beginning of the erosion of the doctrine of separation of powers and also the delegitimization of the constitutional arrangements that underpin our constitutional democracy. The mandate of Parliament is to make laws and oversee their implementation. As part of oversight, Parliament scrutinizes every bill before it to ensure that it complies with the rules of natural justice and public policy. Parliament cannot outsource this oversight function to outsiders without compromising its own integrity and competency as a national legislature. It was therefore, Chairperson, in my humble opinion, out of order for the opposition to want to suspend the work of Parliament in order to go and seek a legal opinion elsewhere. It is my considered view that the request for a legal opinion was a delaying tactic to await the outcome of the SABC case now before the Western Cape Court. And such games, Honorable Chairperson, will tarnish the image of this august institution. And I want to therefore suggest, Honorable Chairperson, that the opposition party in this committee were not acting in good faith, and they were trying to take this parliament for a ride, and some of them knew that they are appearing in court in Polokwane, and therefore they would not be available. Instead of asking for a postponement of this meeting so that they can go and attend the court in Polokwane, they walk out as if there were justifiable grounds to do so, and there were none, Honorable Chairperson. This committee was at one that it was not mandated to review any of the reports before it. It was mandated to consider all the reports and more specifically the recommendations and report its findings to Parliament for Parliament to decide. All the reports contained sufficient information to enable the committee to make its own findings without calling for further witnesses. That calling for witnesses would amount to a review of the reports or opening of investigations or inquiries. The fact that some opposition parties felt that the President had not answered some questions put to him by the SIU and Public Protector and Parliament were matters of opinions which did not warrant the appearance of the President before this committee. Such opinions entitled the members to make negative findings against the President for consideration by this committee and the House, but did not justify the President's appearance before this committee. It is unfair and unreasonable to answer questions satisfactorily unless the questions relate to matters within one's personal knowledge. Outsiders are not competent to determine whether or not a person has personal knowledge of any fact or to set standards for the adequacy or inadequacy of answers to such questions. Principal agent. It was imperative for the president to introduce Makanya to the officials to enable them to scrutinize, to synchronize the existing and the new plans. This introduction, in my view, did not exempt the officials from the regulatory framework and the application of the law in general. This introduction cannot be reasonably interpreted as instructions to the officials to omit or commit something. And therefore, it cannot be correct, and it is a false excuse that political pressure was brought to bear on officials because of this introduction, which was of necessity in the circumstances. The Minister of the Police, as originator of the projects, was obliged by law to determine if any extra costs would arise and inform the client, which is the president, to enable him to accept such costs. And that was not done. Where costs are assessed after the fact and after scope and scale have been changed, the excess should be determined without attributing any culpability or guilt to the client. In my view, Chairperson, to even begin to suggest that there is an amount that must be paid by the president, I think it's out of order, because if at the beginning an assessment was done and an extra amount was determined and it was put to him and he accepted, that would be understood. But if someone, through negligence or unauthorized behavior, go and enhances a project and create additional costs which were not envisaged, which were not part of the operation, how do you go and say the client who was not part of those schemes, who did not want such enhancement, and who did not consent to such enhancement, you go to him and say you owe a certain amount? I think that that approach is, with due respect, out of order. My view, Chairperson, is that the omissions or commissions of the officials which enhanced the security upgrades without the knowledge and consent of the president should not and cannot be translated into an offense or a transgression by the president, requiring him to be penalized for this. No penalty, in my view, attached to that situation. And even if, for argument's sake, one could find that the president has an amount to pay, which, in my view, is not there, that would have been without prejudice. But if you listen to the opposition, they are suggesting that the president has an amount to pay. They put it at 90,000 because, according to them, the president has unlawfully or unduly benefited from this operation. With respect, that is at best an insult to the president to stand before a public forum like this and suggest that the president has unduly benefited when there is no such benefit.
However, when it's the executive ethics code, there's also the question that
it's unfortunate because that those kinds of claims go to the people of this country, the international community. One would have expected that
is a law that regulates the work of the
opposition
executive, and the executive
parties
ethics code
would first
is a private
establish the
code of
facts
conduct for
before
members
they
of
make
executive.
pronouncements
My job as the
which
public
can
protector
tarnish the
is to
image
investigate allegations of
the head of
violations of that
state.
code of conduct with the hope that
Chapter
the
9
executive will honor its own code
must investigate,
and do the
prepare
right
a
thing.
report,
I have engaged with the
and
President
determine
to the extent
remedies
that I could,
and recommend
in view of the fact
remedies
that Parliament
to
is now
appropriate
having a forum that is
state
dealing with these
institutions.
things. I
It
will
is my
then just
considered
going
view
forward
that
submit
Chapter
my
9
last letter to the
institutions
President of
cannot
Parliament
and should
lead
not
the
issue
process
reports
in
and
the
also
hands of
issue
Parliament,
instructions
South
to
Africa,
consent
and the
state
institutions.
officials to comply within certain periods. Because the instruction of the public protector to the president to pay within 14 days is actually the unfortunate thing that brought us where we are. Because opposition parties, without thinking, rush to Parliament to say, President, pay because you have been ordered to pay, forgetting that the report of the public protector, and I want to commend the public protector for regarding that report as dealing with a matter of national interest that requires consideration by Parliament. And therefore the public protector was correct to refer that matter to Parliament. And now when Parliament is seized with the matter, and before Parliament discusses the matter, and the opposition wants the implementation of the recommendations of a report that Parliament has not yet discussed, I think they don't take their work seriously, because otherwise they would not do that. I think the public protector also understands, and she considered in the debate on Judge for Yourself, that the public protector, in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, is not a judge. The public protector's remedial actions don't have the same status as the judgments of courts of law. And we know, and we have seen it in operation, that the Constitutional Court was able to say to Parliament, your law is not constitutional in certain respects. We want you to remedy the defect. And the court would give Parliament a number of days or months to remedy the defects. But that power resides in the courts and not in the public protector. So the disruption that we saw here, perhaps to give everybody the benefit of doubt, maybe arises from a policy gap that we as this Parliament, which makes the national legislation which gives effect to the Constitution that created the Office of the Public Protector, maybe we should have made it clear that the reports that deals with matters of national interest should come before us for consideration, before the authors of those reports issue instructions to consent state institutions demanding compliance. Because if a matter is still open for discussion by higher institutions, how do you then get the affected people and force the affected persons to comply?
sowel as
But
by
I
die
think in this
onthoringsproses
regard
en
as
vervoer
well,
van die horings.
we must have regard to the
Premier
Constitution
David Steyn het
itself.
volgens die staat
You know,
geweet
when
van die
the
renosterhorings
Constitution
wat hy by
says
2 geleenthede in
Chapter 9
2009 vir Igorras
institutions
vervoer het.
must strengthen and
Die
support
ander lede van die
constitutional
syndikaat wat nie in
democracy.
die stadium
Strengthening
aansoek
and
doen, is
supporting
Igorras, Nkandla Committee,
presupposes
Willie
that
NC Skeepers en Anton Ras.
adversarial
Die prokureur Joseph
relationships
Wilkinson
are
wil
not
nou 'n
envisaged.
nuwe borgtog aansoek in 'n hoër
And
hof bring op
therefore,
grond van nuwe feite.
the
Die verdediging en die staat sal daar
recommendations of
verwag en
remedial
môreoggend hulle
actions
slotbetoe afhandel.
must
Gerard
actually
Pretorius,
be
ENS,
preemptory and not mandatory. If this is the problem was caused by lack of clarity in this regard, then maybe it is an issue of clarification of the policy position, which is the responsibility of Parliament. Lastly, I think, Honorable Chairperson, we need to distinguish between the office of the Public Protector and the reports of the Public Protector, because the Constitution, the office of the Public Protector is the creature of the Constitution, but the reports of the Public Protector are not the creature of the Constitution. So you cannot put the office of the Public Protector and the report of the incumbent at the same level and tell this committee that there is the ANC is threatening the Constitution. There is no threat of the Constitution here. In fact, the ANC is not only the architect of the Constitution, but is the #1 defender of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And those who left this committee or walked out claiming that the Constitution is under threat, they are actually the people who are threatening the Constitution, because they are saying that in this Parliament, if the minority parties, singly or collectively, do not agree that this Parliament must not take decisions. Now, it really means, therefore, that the principles of democracy, which says the majority shall rule, the democratic majority shall rule, should not apply in this Parliament, where the ANC actually has demonstrated its love and support for multi-party democracy. To say that in our work, we are not going to place numbers first. In every situation, we want political parties to persuade one another, and those political parties that can offer superior arguments, those superior arguments will be accepted even by the ANC. So the ANC is not a dictator, is not going to dictate. The ANC wants to ensure that the best ideas prevail in this Parliament, because we are not in the service of ourselves at the ANC, we are in the service of the people of South Africa. Whatever we do must be in the best interest of the people of South Africa. And I think I want to conclude, Honorable Chairperson, by saying that calling on the opposition parties really to come back and act in good faith, because their conduct is despicable. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Ngobo.
Sihlalo ngiyabonga. Ngivumelana nabo bonke lokho asebekushilo. Mangisho nje ukuthi njoba senza sikulomhlangano sazisa siqhasayo abavoti abavotela ukhongolose ukuthi lokho esikwenzayo sikwenza ngoba basithumile ukuthi sikwenze. Kufanele ukuthi sikwenze ngoba basithumile ukuthi sikwenze. Mangiqale ngithi umongameli wasitshela ukuthi umzi wakhe uyayilungiselela. Umzi wakhe yebo uyayilungiselela ngoba ngesikhathi seluqala lonke loluphando ubese khona obese vele esebenza emzini kamongameli. Onke lama report ayavumelana ukuthi bekhona besebenza emzini kamongameli. I-interministerial team izeke yona yachazisisa ukuthi ifike lapha ukwakhiwa isakhiwo somzi kamongameli sesikumaphi ama level. Kusho ukuthi umsebenzi bese uvele uqalile. I-SIU yona ingene lapha iyobheka ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzekani ngoba umongameli wabona kufanele ukuthi ayingenelele ukuze angazivikeli akayingenelele. Yathi ngela nje eqala umsebenzi kodwa ngaphambi qala umsebenzi yalinda isikhashana ngoba kwakufuneka ethole imvume yokungena. I-Interministerial Committee vele esinayo task team yesinayo imvume yokungena. U-SIU yathola imvume yabisiyangena iyasebenza. Umvikelo womphakathi wasebenzisa enye yenkampani ukuthi kube yona ezombhekela zonke lezi zinto akhuluma ngazo ngokuvikeleka komzi kamongameli. Kodwa bebonke bavumelana ngalokhu ukuthi zonke lezi zinto ezibaliwe bezikhona emzini kamongameli zihlakazekile zigcwele wonke umuzi. Okokungezela kulokho okunye bekukhona nenye ingxenye yomndeni eyihlobo zikamongameli ebihlala khona lapho ngaphakathi. Bonke futhi bayaxoxa ngayo. So kusho ukuthi ke umongameli ngempela kukho konke lokhu okwamanje esengikushilo akabonakala ukuthi yini embi ayenzile. So sivuma ukuthi umongameli ayikho into ayenzile embi. Kodwa ke bonke futhi bayavumelana ukuthi abasebenzi beminyango okuyibona abahlaba bakhahlela banyathela yonke imigomo abayibekileyo akhona wodwa ebekiweyo akhona wodwa abawuhlonipha. Imhlangano yabo ngoka SIU yayingenawo amadokodo ekufuneka ngabe bayawaveza. Mangabe amadokodo lawo efuneka awekho. Ama recording okusho ukuthi lapho bekhuluma bese kuyabhala bese kubhekwa ke nawo futhi ayengekho ayekhona ayempedo. Imhlangano abayenza yayingekho indlela yokuthi kubona ukuthi bayenze kanjani. Kusho ukuthi ke bona bahlabe bakhahlela yonke into. Konjeni public protector ngesizulu umvikeli wabantu uwenzile nomsebenzi wakhe ngendlela awenze ngayo mhlambe ngendlela ke ebekufanele awenze ngayo. Wakhipha ke nayo owakhe umbono wakhe ngendlela ethize kufuna mangabe esenzile yonke imbono yakhe abese yithula kule parliament. Le parliament kube iyona ebheka ukuthi ke iziphumo zakhe zithini. Siyazi sonke ukuthi umvikelo womphakathi chapter 9 and chapter 9 nje ebeseshilo umhlonishwa uMtsekga vele ukumthetho sisekelo ubekwe yiwo lo hulumeni okhona namhlanje kaKhongolose. Ngakho ke umsebenzi awenzayo kuzofuna futhi azowuthula khona la kule parliament eyambeka. So ke usewuthulileke ekugcineni kosuku umvikelo womphakathi ushilo ukuthi yebo naye uqondisisa kahle hle ukuthi umbiko wakhe uza eParliament. Noma ngabe ikuphi okunye akushilo phecelezi ama remedial action kodwa ayingxenye yebigomo ayikhiphile ngokombono wakhe waseyiletha la eParliament. Abaphikisayo ke bayasikhathaza ngoba baningi akubona abaseParliament kuphela nakhona emphakathini bakhona abaphikisayo. abanye ngivumelana no Nkosazana uKubayi abanye sibonile ukuthi bakhuluma kangaka nje abayifundanga nokuyifunda lembiko iyonkana bafa nje noka public protector okusikhathazileke futhi ukuthi iopposition ibifa nje ukuthi liyaduma liyana asibheke upublic protector kodwa endini wisomthetho safuna ukuthi siyobheka yonke ireport ekhona and yonke ireport ekhona ithi emzini kamongameli akukho umthetho umongameli awephula umongameli njengoba kuthiwa kwakufuna afunda amaphepha uhleze elayini eSouth Africa noma uba ngaphandle ukuthi akwazi ukwafunda onke amaphepha akhe kusinikeza inkinga lokho ke ngokwethu singokhongolosi umongameli asimbonje khonto yenzile kuyo yonke lento ela ngoba akakhi akenzi lutho abakhi bakhe wabathatha nje baxhumanisa so bonke laba abenze uphenyo bayazi ukuthi umongameli wayenalabakhi ubaxhumanisa ngoba ufuna bazi ukuthi mabeqala umsebenzi wabo we security measures vele kunabantu abasebenza ngaphakathi yintoni ke abangayenza bebonke kodwa akasho ukuthi thathani abakhi bami in short there are so many recommendations that were made by various groupings. The interministerial task team actually stated where the project was when it went to the president's place. All the houses were already in progress, so that work is not part of the security. It also tells us of the various structures that were at the presidential precinct. Many of them have been enumerated, including the other members who belong to the clan or to the Ngamalala family who were staying within the same area. So those were all the issues that they saw. And the other thing that the Interministerial Committee, in particular the Intelligence Committee, even came up with a 74 million, which was to be the security upgrades amounted to, or the measures for security came up to that amount, according to the Interministerial Committee, in particular the Intelligence Committee. And the amount that we're talking about is way above that. The SIU just got in there, did the work, and everything that the others have stated, the SIU did, and they just came up and pointed out where the wrong was, who was wrong. Abasho to Mongamelo wrong. They didn't say the president was wrong, they just said who was wrong amongst the people that are implementers, in particular those that have got to follow the supply chain management, the PFMA as a whole. All the sections of the PFMA were violated. Yes, I agree with every member that has reported that there are problems with the policy, and we've got to look seriously into the policy. Maybe, Chairperson, when we come to recommendations, it might not be now, but when we come with the recommendations, with all the security measures that have taken place, we can just ask, is the president secure? Is he secure in comfort? And around the security measures and around the things that were done in his own house, like the bulletproof windows and all those things that were added on as means of security. So maybe at the end of it all, it would be important to get the real security experts to inspect and the real construction inspectors to inspect if everything is as was supposed to be done, because this is what is done for all presidents and previous presidents, deputy presidents, and previous deputy presidents. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Maseko.
Thank you, Chairperson. And se se botlhoko gore ha bua o le wa bofelelo gore batho botlhe se ba boletse dilo. But when you are the last, and most people have covered all the issues. But I agree with my colleagues. They have covered quite a number of issues. I wanted to start with the point of the opposition. I think they have missed an opportunity by walking out, of stating the effect, of contributing, because actually they are the ones who called for the formation of this committee, and then they didn't make it to the end, because we believe that their contribution is very important. As we had said earlier on, Chairperson, that as a multi-party democracy, of which the ANC was very key in ensuring that it happens in this country, that their contribution is very important. But I also think, in looking at all this report, but referring to the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, on page 32, it states that the behavior of the two DA members of the committee has raised a concern, since it appears to be an attempt to compromise or discredit the work of the JSCI. The committee noted that they were both present at the sensitive briefing of the task team in Pretoria, and only thereafter withdrew from the work of the committee in relation to the Nkandla matter. So it means they continuously call for these measures and committees, but then leave after that. And I think then, Chair, on the issues of, for instance, the cabinet memo, I agree that we need a relook of the cabinet memo and to be strengthened. For instance, on the issue of the president requesting, because the point one of the cabinet map says a request from the president or presidency, and not just the president, but with the ministers or MECs or deputy ministers. I think it should be tightened up, that it is not the principal or the incumbent person who requests for such upgrades and assessment, but rather the office that does that. Because you can't be, tomorrow you are an MEC and then you say, please, I want an upgrade to my house. It is not up to you to do that. There are qualified people who are supposed to do that. So as what it is said on point one of the cabinet memo. And I think when we look at those tightening of processes, because I think, Chairperson, this committee is very important, that it will take the country forward. It will also make some recommendation that other people will have to strengthen these measures. And as my colleague has said, corruption is not tolerated, and it is in the agenda, top of the agenda of the African National Congress. That in every project, whether big or small, there needs to be a project manager from the lead department, as Honorable Beekman had said. There must be a lead department, and there should be a proper qualified professional project manager with a checklist, and also qualified evaluators who will, throughout the step of the way, will evaluate the work that has been done and pay according to what they believe needs to be paid and not what they are told to pay. And on based again on the fact of that 10-point of the cabinet memo that were not followed, it is a concern, Chairperson, that those 10 points that were supposed to be followed were not followed. I think only 2 were followed. If that is the case, then who really did the security assessment at the President's homestead? And secondly, the covered me in most of the issues, but I believe that recommendation when we finalize our report, Chair, for stricter measures and stricter follow-up and monitoring and evaluation each and every step of the way of any project, not just of the President, but when I think it's a contribution towards the strengthening of the ministerial handbook and what needs to be done to ensure that what has occurred never happens again. I will leave it there, Chairperson, for now. Thank you very much.
Honorable Lakude.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just want to correct something here. I'm sure it was a slipper of a tongue from the Honorable Maseko. I just want to indicate, Chairperson, that as the ANC, we're the first to move a motion in the House for the establishment of this ad hoc committee. We're the first to submit names of people who must serve in this committee. So the opposition, yes, when we came back from the election, when we start this new term, from day one, before even we were sworn in, they were singing the song of the ad hoc committee. So we couldn't, Parliament couldn't start by establishing an ad hoc committee. There was a lot to be done. So, Chairperson, I just want to suggest that as the chairperson of this committee, maybe you can sit with the Secretariat and the content advisors to start moving towards a draft report. Look into our discussions today. From there, you will identify some findings because we're trying to throw this and that and recommendations. That is what I want to suggest from this side, Chairperson, and also that to propose that, again, we meet next week on the 9th, or I'm not sure of the date. Yet I was just thinking aloud, Chairperson, that if we meet next week to continue with, to look at the draft report and also to make to add some recommendations if need be, then we'll see when to meet again as this committee. Before I pause, Chairperson, I just want to indicate that the President also, in his response, he himself was also shocked by the corruption that took place during this process, and also to say that he mentioned in his response again the fact that processes were not followed, and also mentioned in his report that some of the contractors who were busy with this construction of the security features were not even vetted by the state security agent, and some also did not have the CIDB document, which is a requirement when dealing with some of the construction work. Hence, we recommend that really proper assessment must be done at the President's home to see if the work that was done there, the upgrading of the security features, was done as they were supposed to be done, or if there are any security features anyway that are done there, because it raises questions, a lot of questions, that if you hire people who doesn't have the necessary documents to do the job, the CIDB, tax clearance and everything, then you start asking yourself whether those people, the work they are doing is really what that we can say that it's a quality job. So this is a serious concern that we really need to look into as this committee. And also, Chairperson, to say that as the ANC, we take our work very seriously. We don't play the man, but we play the ball. That is why we managed to identify all the gaps that are on this report, and also what is it that need to be done. And Chairperson, we take ourselves seriously that we are also not media butterflies. Like I said before, that asiwo emavivane le magusi shisalanga abese ayavela, that we just want to sensationalize things and not come up with something that will assist Parliament to move forward. So in all the reports, Chairperson, there is no way where the President, where the report says that the President requested anything to be done at his home. So we cannot base our argument on speculations, but we base our argument on the fact that there is no evidence that that thing is there. We know that people, when they want to manipulate a system, they'll go all the way to do whatever they like. So lebe ngusho ke sihlalo wami lo thembekile ngilokuthi bengithi ungaqala wena wekunene uhlale naleli thimba leli likhona qale kubuketa ukuthi sibe nje nembiko lokhona lesitokhona ukuthi siubuyekede mase sihlangana futhi la nokuthi ngisho ukuthi thina sinkhongolose masingena enkundleni asikhahleli umuntu sikhahlela ibhola kuze umdlalo wethu utoba mnanzi senda kona lokho asikhahleli umuntu ngoba mawukhahlela umuntu batawugcina baphukile abantu umdlalo angeke usachubeka. So sisebenza ngemaqiniso futhi ke nekusho ukuthi kuyo yonke lembiko lekhona la embikwethu akukho nakancane lapho umengameli athe ucela ukuthi akwendiwe lokuthide emntini wakhe konke lokwendekile bantu batendele kona azange acele lutho leba kukhulumako bayatikhulumela ngoba bafuna ukuthi bantu sikhona ukuthenga amaphepha wonke malanga njengoba siyawathenga ama newspapers siyawafunza siyabukela iTV ayisemnanzi phela iTV mayingana tindzaba. So thina sinkhongolose ke asisiwo mavevane ebetindzaba ukuthi sifuna nje ukuthi sikhulume into leti ngekho kuze ngivele eTV ngento lengekho. So ngiyabonga wena waseklaleni.
No, thank you, honourable members. Before I get to some of the issues you have raised, Honourable Lakude, may I just mention that I said that we are meeting until 4 o'clock today, and in the discussions that have taken place, there is a number of issues that has been raised in terms of coming to certain conclusion findings and also some recommendations in between. I don't know if there's anyone who have a different view as to start the process of developing the report that is there and have a first draft available by next week. I want to, are everyone in agreement with that? Yes. Yes. Honorable Kubai, you have something else. Is it part of this point, or will you
No, just
clarify
to
it for us?
Just to emphasize, Chair, that we've got to, as part of the report, I thought that that's why I was saying that would come back, just specific on the areas, because I think the team, so that we guide them in terms of the reports, specific on what we are recommending. We've highlighted some of the issues, but we'll go into detail because they must go back to even the discussion, what we have raised, because it might be that certain things I did not say, we did not say them now today, but we've raised them as consensus, and there was consensus around those issues. I just want it to be flagged that it's not only around the matters that we are flagging here, that we need to start looking into as part of the other issues. Then the last thing, Chair, is that part of our responsibility is to look at the report of the President. And I felt that it's important as we are to give guidance towards the drafters of the reports, because we've got to give them draft guidance. That one is that we have gone through the reports that are going up in front of us, both the Public Protector, the SIU, the Interministerial, the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence, and also look in terms of the report. I think, Chairperson, from where I'm sitting, in terms of how the President has captured, firstly capturing the analysis of the grasp of the issues, and the fact that SIU has already been mandated to start acting. Because you look at, from the recommendation of the ministerial report, you go to the Public Protector, certain steps have already been taken as actions in response to all those reports. So lastly, to accept the response by the President, Chairperson, and request as per the PP's report, and as per the response by the President, for the Minister to respond in terms of paragraph 63.2 of the President's response. Thanks.
No, I'm sure they've captured that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've captured that. Now, honourable members, just another 2 minutes, Honourable Macheka. The team will do that. We will then convene next week, but I'm aware that there are certain members that are attending the CPA conference that is taking place. There are also other members who are attending the IPU conference that will be taking place. And it is a constituency week, so we must just determine. There was a proposal of the 8th or the 9th, I think, for the meeting to take place next week. Honourable Kubai.
Chairperson, in light, because I know Ntate Mtsega sits in JCI.
The JSCI is also...
Yeah, so it's sitting until, if we can appeal to Ntate
Not the
Mtsega.
JSCI, the Judicial Services Commission.
No, the Judicial Service Commission,
Yes.
JSC. Yeah, this abbreviations, yeah. If we can just appeal to Ntate Mtsega, because it's the whole week, my understanding. If we can meet on the 9th, he can attend from the 6th until the 8th. If we can appeal, we know the Judicial Service Commission is very important. If he can request to be excused on the last day.
Thank you.
Myself and Honorable Tlakude, we are supposed, and I think yourself, Chair, supposed to go to IPU. If we can delay our departure and sit.
No, the IPU is important, but it's not more important than this matter.
That's what I'm saying.
So
if we can
let's first check with the Honourable Macheka on his availability for the 9th.
Chairperson, I hope that the JSC will also understand the importance of this matter. I will attend and ask to be excused so that I'm available on the 9th. If there's anything that I can contribute on the 9th, I will put it in writing and leave it with colleagues, but I can assure you that I will be here, and this matter is of great national interest.
Okay. Is there, Honourable Maseko, your timeframes for the CPA, how does that look?
The 9th is the actual voting.
Okay.
So I'll then
that's
send
fine.
my apology.
That's fine. We'll still have a quorum.
Thanks.
Let's meet on the 9th then. I will communicate the time most probably at about 10 or 10:30 in the morning. We usually give time for the members to fly in the morning from their different constituencies, so we'll be flexible around the starting time. Honorable Kubai.
Appeal to you, Chair, to negotiate with the Speaker, because IP is also very important, that our delay be delayed, that we are as mandated. So that it's not regarded as neglecting the other responsibilities.
I can assure you that the Speaker will agree to the request for the delegation, at least a few of the delegation, to leave later, so that we can also pay attention to this work that's in front of us. Now, honorable members, there is really we've considered the minutes of the 26th of September, and then there was a request from the Honorable Kubai that there was some information or something that occurred in the meeting that was not included in the set of minutes. I just want you to quickly reflect if 5.13 and 5.14 on page 4 takes care of that now, of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Yes, I confirm, Chairperson.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Since this meeting, yes, Honourable Member?
Sorry, Chairperson, on page 3, the issue of the name of Honorable Dlagute is still not included, 5.3.
Yes, 5.3.
Yes.
Can you just include at 5.3 on page 3, yes, the reference to the Honourable Dlagute? Honourable Members, since this minute was a continuation of the previous day minutes, I'm not sure if there will be any matters arising, but I need to adopt these minutes formally. Are there a mover? Honourable Ngobo, a seconder, the Honourable Maseko. Are there any matters arising that we have not dealt with? There's none. Honourable members, may I just also remind the members, because since yesterday, there have been, from certain sectors, people who have been questioning the legitimacy or not of this meeting. May I remind honourable members and also the members of the media and public that are here, that on the first day of the meeting, that's last Thursday, I committed a mistake when I referred to members of this committee in terms of their party affiliation. My attention was then drawn by one of the members of the EFF to say that please don't refer to us as political parties and the parties where we're coming from. We are all members of this committee. The committee is constituted by members of Parliament. So for anyone that is questioning the legitimacy of this meeting, I must say we have a quorum of 6 members of Parliament here in this meeting, in line with the concern that the EFF have raised last Thursday. I've also just received a letter, but I must first verify from where this letter actually comes before I make a decision if I want to table it in the meeting or not. But it will be dealt with in the next meeting. It pertains to some of the discussions and deliberations that has taken place here, but I will first verify the accuracy and also the credentials of the people that have sent this letter. Honourable members, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance and thank you for the interest that has been shown. We will then convene next week on the 9th at 11 o'clock. Let's agree at 11 o'clock, where we will then look at the first draft of the report that will be available. I thank you.
Until 4. Until 4.